Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Music Prophet. So, if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, or Google Play, so I appreciate it. And to all the listeners, it is great that you're following along. And for today, we are speaking with a band named Forrest from Toronto, and they are really exciting. Their sound is really unique and it's really catchy pop, but the songwriting is beyond pop music. It has that feel that it isn't trying to just be meaningless with rhyme, but there's a lot of hidden message and there's a big environmental cause, and it's great. So let's just jump right into it.
When you released your newest album, did it get the response you're looking for, do you think?
I think so. I think we didn't really know what to expect. I think we were just more excited that we actually had some sort of good quality recording of our song.
It was just the fact that it turned out so well for you guys, yourself.
Yeah, well, I think because being our first album, we really didn't really know anything about the business, and we kind of just came out of doing open mics, and we thought, you know what, we need to stop doing open mics for one, start playing shows, but two, we need to have our songs done properly, like the way we kind of want them. So we both went to school. I went to school for independent songwriting at Seneca. I dropped out, unfortunately, and Holly went to school for audio engineering at Metalworks, and she dropped out as well, but we both had the same teacher. And we ended up asking him to produce our album. His name's Alfio Anibolini. And we showed him the songs, and he liked them, and we kind of went through this whole process that we've never experienced before, which was going into the studio and the things you do before studio. So we met with him, and we hashed out the songs, and so he was producing the album. So he basically just gave us some pointers on what he thinks would sound good, and just kind of helps guide and sculpt the whole album itself. So we met previously several times to have little sessions with our drummer, and just kind of hash out the songs and get everything kind of to the point and really cleanly done, so that we kind of know exactly what we're going to do when we go into studio. And then when we finally went in, it was a breeze. He made it so easy. So I think the main thing that we really wanted out of the album was just studio experience, and just to see if we can capture what we wanted anyone else to hear on the record, which I think we did.
How is it for you though, Holly? You've done music in Australia, and then you've also done it with others, right? And so how is Forrest different than the stuff you've done previously?
So I was in a band before when I was in high school, and that was in Indonesia, and it wasn't really anything serious. There wasn't really anywhere to play there. So it was more just, let's write some songs and, record them ourselves and try that. So when I came to Canada and met Matt and we started Forrest, it was completely different because it went from a high school band playing talent shows to something serious and a proper career where we have goals. So I can't really compare the two because it was, one was more a hobby and this is my job, what we want to do. Yeah.
Do you see Forrest as continuing for a long time too?
Oh, definitely. I hope so.
That's pretty, and I guess even from your perspective, Matt, did you expect that it was going to work out so well?
I don't know. I thinking back on it, it was kind of just hope. Yeah, I think I came to a point where, because I was doing music before she came, and I wanted to be a songwriter or whatever, but I'm just not a very good lyricist. I never have been. So, I was always in this kind of rut. But then, when she came, the first time we met, it was kind of okay, let's just try to figure this thing out, because she's probably the first person I met who was really, really serious about music, as much as me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we kind of just saw that, and even the story goes, when she came, she had her own songs, and I have my own style of stuff. I'm more folky. She's more punk, and alternative-y. So then when she played her songs to me, I hated them. When I played my songs to her, she hated them. So we ended up just kind of working it out, because even though we didn't exactly like each other's genres, I think we both saw kind of like the drive and like kind of the desire to actually do something with music. And then we ended up just coming to a point where we kind of, I guess, got our heads out of our ass and put away our genre differences and just kind of compromise. And luckily, I think it turned out well for us.
Yeah, I feel like it did. Do you agree, Holly?
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of, I think we were both just kind of so ready to, like Matt said, just get into it. And it's hard to find someone else with that much drive that you get along with and you can spend all your time with. So I think a bit of that was luck, and then it was also just us just wanting to get to the point and do music.
Yeah, it's hard with, especially like with music these days, when you look at the industry and how many bands don't succeed too, that a lot of people get discouraged, or they're just doing it because they can play guitar well, so they're like, I might as well do it, right?
Yeah, definitely. We've been really lucky, because what seems to happen is we saw a lot earlier, like all throughout this year, is we'll be in a big rut and be really down, thinking nothing's happening, and then the next day or a couple of days later, a big opportunity will come along, and it just keeps going like that. So it feels like a sign. It's like every time you want to give up, you just get pushed a little bit more, and just seeing all that just keeps you going.
And I think this year especially, though, because when we first started in 2015, like we were playing open mics for a solid, I don't know, maybe like
8 months.
8 months, yeah, before the album. And we thought, if we just keep playing open mics, this will work.
We'll be discovered.
Yeah, we'll be discovered. But it was kind of like, one, that's not kind of what we want to do. We don't want to be discovered like Justin Bieber or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And two, we just kind of figured like there's a reason why bands play shows and not open mics. And not dissing open mics, because open mics are very important. And
it's a good start.
Yeah,
it
those 8 months though, I think really helped us figure out our songs, and it did help quite a bit. But at a certain point, you get to this kind of realization that if you don't play shows, no one's gonna really find out about you, because the open mic kind of has the same cycle of people. And it's fun. It's fun, and it's a great way to practice. But overall, you have to kind of eventually dive into the deep end and see what you can actually do in the quote unquote real world. But
open mic, it's training grounds, right?
Yeah, definitely.
A very important step. I mean, definitely wouldn't tell someone to skip open mics, but it's one of those things where eventually, once we did the album, it was like, okay, we need to start playing shows, and then the question became, how? And so then, as we started like learning these things, better opportunities came, and I think the biggest thing that we've learned is the harder you work. It sounds pretty stupid, but like the harder you work, the more opportunity comes. Like we've sent like thousands of emails to bands trying to open up, and I think only 2 of them actually answered and gave us a shot, which was amazing for us. But if you don't put out those 1,000 emails, you're not even going to get one. So I think the biggest thing we learned this year was if you try, you get something.
Yeah.
And the thing too, I find, is that with your style, it's such a blend of different genres. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what we find as well, and that's how we describe it to people, because they ask us our genre, and it's like, well, if we're referring to that album, it's kind of a mix of lots of things, and we were definitely trying to find our sound in that, and we're working on new music at the moment, and it's definitely going in more of one direction.
Not the band,
One Direction, like it's going one way. Yeah, I think this first album was definitely just a bit about inventory. So let's just put what we've got together, put into an album, and see what people think, and see where it goes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, do you think that this time around your lyrical focus is even different, Holly?
I it's I have a lot of trouble. Like, I can't just sit down and write lyrics, and I think it's the same with Matt and like guitar parts. It just kind of happens, and so it's never, the process has never really changed, and the lyrics are kind of still the process is all the same. We've written a whole bunch of new songs, and I couldn't say that anything's gone differently lyric wise.
Okay, yeah, because like, when did you start playing music?
Well, I started guitar lessons when I was 9, and I kind of just started writing songs right off the bat. Mostly about butterflies then, but yeah, and it just I just fell in love with it, and it was like a therapeutic thing, just writing, being able to write whatever you want to write about.
Yeah, and then for you, is it about like when you were a kid too, Matt?
Yeah, I started playing piano when I was 7, and then guitar at 12, I think. I've lost track of my years or whatever, but I really wanted to play guitar, but the teacher at the school was like, you need to play piano first because it's easier. So my mom and dad forced me to kind of do that at first, and then I finally made the switch. And yeah, I think music was the only thing I was actually into at the time. So I kind of just stuck with it. And I've always liked music, so I think since that day when I started playing, honestly, that's all I really wanted to do. I was never a big video game kid or whatnot. Well, it was either be a musician or be either a soccer or hockey player or a professional Pokemon trainer. But unfortunately, I'm not good at all three. So
Yeah, apparently professional Pokemon trainer isn't a job.
yeah, I heard that, but I was optimistic.
So I'm kind of curious then, since you've been playing guitar for so long, what's better, acoustic or electric?
Yeah. So originally, I think before Holly came, I would have said acoustic. I was a big fingerstyle player. I love folk. I love all types of folk. I love all types of indie rock. But I really just love the acoustic guitar. But then, because I was playing mostly rhythm for my songs, and then when Holly came, one of us had to take lead guitar, and so I started actually practicing lead a little bit more, because I'm pretty much, even though I took lessons in guitar, I quit fairly early, so I'm kind of just self-taught. But when we first started, I was like, no electric guitars, like we're going to use acoustic. And then eventually I said, you know what, I'm going to try to do electric, because one, it's easier to carry around, I think, less warping, and just easier to play lead on. And then as I kept practicing, I went from I refuse to use an amp to I need my amp, and then from I'm never going to use pedals to I have a full pedal board now. And like I've been learning a lot in the band just by playing and practicing. And so now I think I'd have to say electric is my favorite. But that being said, all guitars have a certain time and a place to shine, so.
Yeah, exactly. Like in your case, once you're doing full band stuff, then you need electric, right?
Yeah, we need, and I think it's even less about just having electric and more about what kind of different tones you can get, because if everyone's using an electric guitar with the same exact setting, you're not going to really notice the difference, I find, musically. But I find that makes a song sound really full is the different types of tones. So, a different, like, for example, a telly sounds way different than a Strat, right? So even if you are using like two electric guitars, like using different electric guitars changes the sound, changes the depth and texture of the song. And, if you just kind of mix everything has its time and place, and when mixed together, you can get some really cool stuff.
Do you play with tones and different sonic rhythms?
I think more the tonality is in my parts, to be a little bit more honest. Holly kind of, the hard thing is the lyrics are so important in our music. So we have to kind of find this balance where Holly's voice comes through and is kind of intimate enough and loud enough for you to hear what she's saying and actually understand. So we can't like kind of be too experimental, to say the least. But with my parts, I kind of try to come up with parts that, as opposed to kind of drowning her out, I try to do stuff that just kind of highlights what she's singing. So kind of, I remember somebody explained my parts as flowery shit. So I kind of just do like all the flowery bits around the actual song, which I don't mind. I like my flowery stuff, but so I like to play with tones a lot. But less tones, and I think more sounds. I can't live without my reverb pedals. I use two of them. One is constantly on. And then I'm very particular in my rougher tones. So in my overdrives, like I have two overdrive pedals now, and they're both used for totally different things. I'm more into kind of the more ambient type of stuff, and tone is very important for that, in my opinion. So I'm always watching my tone and making sure I get the exact sound. And if I don't get the exact sound that I want, I get really pissy as well. So everyone kind of just makes sure that I'm happy with how I sound.
And how does your songwriting come into play for that then?
Lately we've been writing more together. Whereas previously it was I would come to Matt with something, or he would come to me, and that would be the entire base of it, and we'd go around that. But now it's a lot more collaborative, and we do a lot of it in the basement, and Matt doesn't have his pedals or anything here, so it's more just the melody of what he's writing, and then when we go to our rehearsal space, then he really hashes out all the tones and stuff. So I think it's more just like the like framework of the song, just the real basic stuff when we write it, and then it gets more into the tones and things.
Is that a bit of... Yeah. No, go ahead, yeah.
I also think that less, I don't really have a tone for every song. I have a certain tone that I like for myself, like for my guitar. So it's just me getting back to that sweet spot. And every song is slightly different. So I do change the tones once in a while a little bit, but for the most part, I try to get this certain sound that's in my head that I'm trying to replicate. Because everything, at least that I do from a musical aspect, is I hear it in my head, and then I just try to mimic it with the six strings.
And do you think friendship makes the decisions easier too, at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it helps a lot. We spend every day together, and we work at it every day, and I think if we didn't get along, we weren't friends. We would have killed each other by now. I mean, we have our differences, but we get on very well. I can spend every day with him, and it's easy. It's not a chore, so that helps a lot. And it helps when we're on the road or when we're doing a tough show, and you have your friends there, and it's very helpful.
Before anything, I think we kind of decided that we're best friends first.
Yeah, and we're in the band first, and we weren't dating when the band started, so it's I think we have very clear lines where it's when it's band time, and that's when we have our friend, and then we have like personal time outside of the band, and so it's still very much like it was at the beginning, and we can still I think we act very professional, I guess I would say, when it's to do with the band, and we don't let our personal lives get into it. So the songwriting, I don't think has changed, like, because of our relationship.
And I don't think we changed because of our relationship either. I think we pretty much stayed exactly the same, whether we were dating or not. It's just kind of like we've always been friends, so it's kind of just like natural. Nothing ever changed. It was just always the same. I still call her out on things. She still calls me out on things. I beat her up. She beats me up. It's like nothing's really changed.
That sounds a bit rough.
That sounds a bit rough. That's so true, though. You beat me up all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's fine then. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a limit.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, but I think the relationship definitely doesn't come in the way. We love music first, and I think whenever we write songs or anything with the band, we've always kept it pretty separate.
The band Whitehorse, we just said, there's such a professionalism with their music that they don't want their emotions to kind of come into play there.
Oh, 100%. And even when we're on stage, it's it just feels different. It's very much like we're a band, we're a team, and then we go home, and then like it's a whole different feeling. And I really like that because I can be really angry at Matt because, like, I don't know, he sent a wrong email or something, and then we can put that aside and just watch a movie, or vice versa.
The thing about it that I like about you guys is how open you are, like Indonesia and like other causes besides yourself.
Oh yeah, well, Holly's mom is really. Okay, you tell this story, Holly. It's your mom, not mine.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Africa and Indonesia, so I was always kind of immersed in like, a low-income environment, and just being exposed to that just like unintentionally changes the way you think. So it's not really conscious like we should help. It's more like we have to do what we can. Like it's our obligation as like people. But my parents still live in Indonesia, and she started a foundation that helps disabled children in Lombok. Not always orphans, but being like shunned from their family and things like that. And so she does that, and it's really inspiring just to always like be around that. And if you get too into like what's the word? Like materialistic stuff.
Uh-huh.
I can call my mom, and then it just kind of grounds us, and just you think about, well, I don't really have these problems aren't really a big deal right now, and it kind of it sets your mind straight on what you should be focusing on. And I don't know if I said that right, but
Yeah, you know, like, and I get it completely, right? Because your mom is it's like she's your home base, no matter what.
yeah, definitely.
And do you think, like, are you the same? Do you have someone in your life that does that for you, Matt?
I don't know. I'm only Holly. But I think Holly and I have become we've kind of each other's support system here. I'm an only child, and I'm kind of more self-sufficient. Not that Holly's not self-sufficient, because she helps me all the time. But like,
You're more independent, yeah.
well, I wouldn't even say independent. I mean, I think it's just more understanding. I think I just have to cope with my own scars a little bit more. Just because my parents are a little bit more distant, especially at the moment. But luckily I have Holly, so like she really is my person at the moment. And I think what I like about that is Holly's family is also my family now. Like, and now, like, I don't know what it is. Just since I've met her family, even before we were dating, like her mom was really nice. I think her mom likes me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really close with Holly's parents and her family, and I like hearing the stories too, because you just don't realize when you live in like Canada, such a nice country, all the kind of crap that's happening outside of your little bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm half Bolivian, and Bolivia is in South America. And it's not like the greatest country ever. But a lot of my cousins and family there, they're really poor, and they live in like a broken down, abandoned house that's like more like a shack, and the kids don't have toys. And I remember going one time and bringing my old broken toys from the 90s, and like I was probably 16 at the time, so this was maybe 6 years ago. And it's so weird how, not even weird, it's so eye-opening when you see this little kid and their eyes just open so bright when you give them this broken toy, and it's like, this toy's a piece of crap, it's garbage, it's like 20 cents, and to them it's like the best thing in the entire world. I remember seeing that, and I came to the point where I was like, whoa, like that's so intense, and we should be doing more to help. And then they came back to Canada, and I kind of forgot about it. And then since meeting Holly and being more immersed with her family, I think the biggest thing is, I guess her family's also home base for me, where you kind of realize, like, holy crap, like, we probably should be doing more. And, seeing her mom, like, her mom climbs mountains to raise money for these children, like, literally. And it's like, I'm a lazy fuck and I can't get off of the off of the couch. But, like, it's one of those things where it's like, if she can, like, she loves, like, trekking and climbing and whatnot, but if she can do that type of thing, we can definitely do our thing and do our part, do the same. I mean, our goal is more with the environment, less towards people, but it's the same type of concept.
How do you think your music plays into that then?
Well, the big thing for me was Holly came, and she's more the environmentalist. And so she came and was like, stop littering, and that was really bad, like, to be quite honest. Like, I didn't really care about throwing my garbage on the floor or, like, recycling or any of that stuff. And, like, in my head it was, it's like environmentalists are just, like, annoying. They're just annoying people that are, like, trying to get you to do something that's just so inefficient. And I think when Holly really opened my eyes, and the biggest thing is, what we kind of compromised on was, like, I'm part of the person that, like, I have a bit of the perspective of the person that doesn't care. And I think that's who you kind of want to appeal to as a goal. Like, obviously, it's from a business perspective, as an eco-friendly band, if you want to make money, you're appealing to people who are eco-friendly. But I think our thing is, we're trying to help the environment. And so we're trying to get the people who aren't eco-friendly and don't care to either start caring or not notice. And the biggest thing is to not notice. So I don't think any of our songs are really about the environment or helping anyone. We're not like a charity band. I think what we do is I like to say that we try to write good music, or at least write music that we love. We hope everyone else loves it. And while we do that, by you supporting us, you're inadvertently, whether you like it or not, are being eco-friendly. So, if you buy a band shirt, you're buying an eco-friendly band shirt from us.
Yeah.
If you buy our merchandise, it's all eco-friendly. Eventually, we want to start making our whole touring rig eco-friendly. Just requires a lot of money, but eventually we want to get to that point. We want to get to the point where every single thing we have is making a donation to a massive charity. We just want to be involved, and I think the biggest thing is setting the trend for other bands. Like, we don't want to be known as the eco-friendly band, like, to the extent where it's like, we want everyone to be the eco-friendly band. We want it to eventually become a point where it's like, the industry standard is all the shirts are made of bamboo cotton as opposed to regular cotton or recycled, and no more plastic covering on CDs, or using just the paper wallets as opposed to the plastic cases. I think the goal is less a marketing scheme, and it's more of trying to get everyone to kind of join on this type of, I guess, movement. I don't want to seem like a protester or anything, but like, but it's kind of one of those things where we're trying to do it so that whether you're an environmentalist or whether you care or you don't care, you're doing your part, whether you like it or not. And I think that's the biggest thing, like getting through to the lazy person, because everybody else whoever's eco-friendly and likes that stuff's already doing it, and that's not the person you're trying to reach. You're trying to get through to the people who aren't. Because if you can do that, then you've done, I think, quite a good job.
Yeah, the small things matter, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, there's no point in, you never, like, there's already people who support you. You have to try to get the people who aren't at the moment as much as you can.
For you, Holly, like, do you think that you have another kind of goal with Forrest in helping out others?
Well, since I was little, I always wanted to be an environmentalist or a conservationist. And then a little later on, I fell in love with music, and that just became, I was at a bit of a crossroads where it was, do I go to school to be an environmentalist or do I do music? And my dad, he said, what are you going to enjoy more? Like, if you go to school for the environment, you're going to focus on that. And I thought, maybe not. So I'm doing music, and I'm hoping, like, I'm a big, like, Paramore fan, for example, and when they tell their fans to do something, like go like a post or go and buy this shirt, I go and buy it because I'm a huge fan, and I just I wanna have that influence one day where it's like people listen to us, and we have a voice so that we can spread the word and do the right thing. And I don't want to be like just one environmentalist. I want to be an environmentalist that people listen to, as opposed to, like Matt was saying, the like annoying person that bugs you and tells you to turn your lights off. Like, well, I want it to be more of they're a cool band. I'll do that.
So I'm kind of curious on, like, how should a band use their platform when it comes to that kind of stuff?
I think I've realized recently it's not really an obligation. You be a musician to make music, but it seems like a lot of these bigger bands and things, they don't have a problem being in the spotlight about, not the greatest thing. So I just think take a little bit of time to use your platform to talk about a bit of good, and a lot of that's happening more now with Trump, and as he tries to pass more bad bills and things, and people are starting to speak out a lot more about good things, and I'm seeing it everywhere, and we're hoping to try and start that a bit more for the environment in the music industry, because like Matt said, it's so expensive at the moment, and it's just so difficult to do because no one's doing it. And even just bands our size, we want to try and get them to change their ways a little bit, make a bit of difference.
And do you think there's a limit to a band's power?
I think if they set their mind to it, you can only do so much, but you got to do what you love, and you got to speak about what you love, and I think it's clear sometimes when someone's paid to talk about something as opposed to when someone's talking from the heart. And I don't think there's a limit. You got to do music first if you're a musician, obviously, and then use your speaking platform second and speak about what you love.
In 5 years, where do you want Forrest to be when it comes to that social power and that listening ability to really move ideas forward?
I never thought about that. I think for me, it's more about the raising awareness of, like, in 5 years, I would hope that, we're able to make a lot of band friends and get them just to simply change their merchandise a bit. I've never, like, personally, I've never thought of myself as a big leader when it comes to change and stuff. But for me, all I really want to see is, I'll give you like an example with T-shirts. A T-shirt costs $2 to make when it's not eco-friendly, when it's just pure, bad for the environment. Mm-hmm. And then they sell a T-shirt for like $20, and so your profit margin is like $18, which is very steep. Which you never think of, but it's a shirt with your band's name on it, and so you buy it. And I just think, you pay a few extra bucks. The cost of the shirt comes to $5. You can charge the same price. Sometimes it's more, but you can charge the same price pretty much and still get a profit. And, like, eventually the more you buy these things, like the more you use eco-friendly stuff, the more you purchase them, the cheaper they'll go down. The cheaper they'll be because, well, now there's actually demand for them. So you can actually bring the cost to make them down. And so I think in 5 years, I just hope that at least we can impact the Toronto scene as much as we can and try to get everyone on board this eco-friendly kind of lifestyle. But you can support, the cool thing about being eco-friendly is you can support anything else that you want. If you want to support equality, if you want to support anything, starving children in Africa, you can do anything you want with that. But if you have merchandise that's eco-friendly, you're also just killing two birds with one stone. For example, you could say, I'm charging $20 for a band poster. I don't know what band posters cost, but I'm charging $20 for a band poster. Yeah. Made of all recycled material, all recycled everything. It's super super eco-friendly, and proceeds are going to, let's say, I don't know, socks for the homeless that Indie 88 was doing recently. So, but you could do that thing, and it's like you can still like fund and raise money for your actual like passion. But while you're doing that, you can kill two birds with one stone and help
the environment.
Yeah, like that's the biggest thing that I like about the environment movement is that it's so like you don't even know you don't even have to notice you're helping. You just are. Like if you buy eco-friendly materials, you're helping. Why? Because one, you're helping bring the cost down because with more demand for them, the cost will come down for those goods. And two, you're just doing your part to lessen the demand of like non-eco-friendly things, right? And so it's kind of like this incognito like type of like what's it called, fundraising to some extent, because you're just living your life in a normal way that you would any other day, except the items you're buying are just slightly different. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think in 5 years I want a lot of bands in Toronto to just have as much eco-friendly merchandise as possible.
And then same for you, Holly, or do you have a different kind of idea of what impact you'll have?
I think it's similar to that. That's a tough question.
You always seem a little more hands-on than me, though. You've always been
but we have lots of little ideas and things, and we really want to, as we grow and hopefully as our fan base grows, we want to be not just telling people to do things. Like we want to go replant trees with our fans, and we want to go and help at the animal shelter with our fans. And I want to be really hands-on and not just be like, go and do this. It's like I'm doing this too. Like I'm not just sitting at home and telling you to go and do it for me. I think I want to lead a good example and, do what I say what we should be doing.
Yeah, so it pretty much is, right? Like it's, because that is kind of the cool thing with Forrest is that you can tell there's an awareness, and I feel like is there mindfulness in a way in your lyrics?
The songs kind of approach a different thing. The songs are more mental health, which is another thing which we're really passionate about. So that kind of has nothing to do with the environment, but I guess it gets the same message across with the passion. Like just people struggle, and it can really be put into any context, which is what I like. Like the song can mean like the trees are hurting and help them, but the song can also mean like I'm hurting. And I think it's really it's whatever you want it to be about. And I personally don't like knowing what the song's about, but for bands I like, because when I listen to it, it has its own meaning to me. And then when I find out what it's about, it's like, oh, like I got that all wrong, and that's not what it was about. And I like having, I like that songs mean something different to everyone. And a couple people come up to speak to us and said this song like helps me through this because of this, and it was like, well, that's not at all what I wrote it about, but that's amazing that they heard it that way and that helps them in that way.
Do you write your because you did mention like mental health, but do you write? Oh, do you guys see yourself doing anything for that in the future even?
I hope so. We want to try and collaborate with some organizations,
KMH and whatnot.
Yeah, and to write Love on Our Arms and things, because that's I'd say pretty on par with the environment, passion-wise. Like using passion too much, but it's something that we both really care about. We've both had experiences with, and it's something that
not even have.
Yeah, and it's something that's beginning to be talked about more, and the stigma is like slowly going away. And but I think we obviously want to do our part to help with that, and I think having the songs about mental health, people really, it seems like they reach out a lot more when they know that it could be about mental health, and they relate to it a lot more, and they can, even if it's just speak to us about their struggles, it's enlightening to see it helping people.
And with that, that will wrap up my interview with Forrest. So that was fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and I appreciate all the people that listen every week and the musicians that I've had on the show in the first season. I recorded 45 episodes in the first season, and so if you haven't seen yours on air yet, then you will in the next 2 or 3 months. And I'm really excited for you to see what's coming up in this year of the Music Prophet. There's a lot of big artists, a lot of changes. The podcast is still available on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. So you're able to see the entire first season, binge listen to it if you want, and discover some beatboxers, folk songwriters, rock bands. Surprisingly, I covered a lot of genres and a lot of sounds that you don't normally find on radio.